Hi and welcome to Pharmacochemistry Vibes. In this session, we are going to see how to represent stereoisomers, that is conformational and configurational isomers, by four different projections. There are some two-dimensional as well as three-dimension projections. Also, at the end, we will see what do we mean by D and L in the nomenclature given by Fischer for carbohydrates and amino acids. As we had seen earlier, isomers are classified into structural isomers and stereoisomers. Stereoisomers have same molecular formula, but they differ in arrangement of their groups in the three dimensions, that is within the space. So there are total four types of representations which are generally used. Out of this, Fischer projections and flying wedge are generally used to depict optical isomers. Newman projections and Sauer's projections are generally used to depict conformational isomers. So let's discuss them one by one. Initially, we will discuss conformational isomers, how they are expressed. There is Newman projection wherein front carbon atom is depicted by a center which is at the cross section of three different lines, and the rear carbon, the carbon which is behind this, is shown in the form of a big circle. Now all the substituents which are attached to this front carbon as well as rear carbon, they are shown in the form of English letter Y. Now this Y can be inverted like this, or it can be straight as it is there in this rear carbon atom. And at the end of these lines which are representing this letter Y, different substituents can be shown. This is widely used to show conformations in N-butane when the two Ys, that is Y attached to the front carbon as well as back carbon, if they both are straight Y or inverted Y, like this example, then the different groups which are attached to these both carbon atoms, they come very close to each other. Such type of conformation is called as eclipsed, and it is usually unstable because of the steric hindrance as well as electronic repulsion between these so close groups. So when, in order to stabilize this particular conformation, substituents, if they are attached, like first carbon atom inverted Y, rear carbon atom as straight Y, then they are having largest possible distance amongst them. Such conformation is very much stable and it is called as staggered. Now same thing can be depicted in the Sauer's projection. Here we observe the front carbon and the back carbon both are shown as a point of intersection of this Y, and here we observe it from the sides. So we are able to observe this bond connecting these two carbons, which was not possible over here. Here we were observing straight. Now because in Sauer's projection we are observing from the side, we are able to see the bond connecting two carbons. But this bond is drawn quite exaggerated than its original length. Similar to Newman projection, all the substituents are shown in the form of Y. Here it is inverted Y. So when both the carbon atoms will have their substituents as inverted Y, it is known as eclipsed. Whereas if one of them is straight Y, other one is inverted Y, then they are having sufficient distance that there is no group which is parallel to this hydrogen, and in fact for every hydrogen. So they are far away from each other. This conformation is called as staggered, and it is the most stable conformation amongst all. Now we will see projections which are used to depict configurational isomers. To be more specific, optical isomers, these are most widely used. So in case of flying wedge projection, it represents the molecule in the three-dimensional way, wherein chiral carbon atom is shown at the center. So even if there are substituents which are having more carbon length, say 3 members, 4 members, or even greater than that, still they will be shown as a substituent and chiral carbon atom will be shown at the center. Now because it's a tetrahedral carbon atom, all the bonds will be drawn as they are 109 degree apart. Now there is a bond angle of 109 degree between them. So different substituents will be placed at equal distances on 3 dimensions. And the lines which are drawn to depict these bonds, there are of 3 kinds. There are 2 solid lines. Now solid lines means normally whatever we draw lines to draw the structure on 2 dimensions. Simple solid lines, they can represent the groups which are attached in a way that they are in the plane of the paper, whereas wedge-shaped lines which are bold and you can see it is little bit broad, there is a fine tip. Now this tip should face to the carbon and this broad end should face to the substituent. So such a wedge-shaped line is drawn and it is darkened to show the substituents which are oriented facing the viewer. It is coming towards the viewer, whereas there is another wedge similar to this, but it is drawn with the help of dotted lines. That is used to depict a group which is going away from the viewer. So usually in case of showing optically active carbons, this type of projections are very widely used, and all type of lines, that is solid line, dark, wedge shaped, as well as dashed lines, they are used to depict the bonds. In case of such examples where you are focusing on any particular substituent, that time you may show only one of the bond which is of interest, like in this example butanol. OH group is in one isomer, it is shown wedge shaped facing the viewer. In another isomer, it is going away from the viewer, so it is shown by the dotted bonds. Another, there will be hydrogen, which is not important to be shown in this particular example, so that is not shown. Otherwise, if you are deciding configuration, like RNS configuration, if you are assigning all the 4 groups and these 3 types of bonds, they need to be mentioned. Lastly, we have Fischer projections, which was given by Emil Fischer in 1891, and this is the simplest of all, easy to draw. You can draw the molecule on 2 dimensions on the simple paper. So here all the groups are drawn in one plane and the carbon chain is drawn vertically so that most oxidized carbon atoms, they are at the top rather than drawing them on the bottom. So this particular system was widely adopted for sugars, amino acids. So in that case, you need to take care. Always highly oxidized carbon atom must be shown at the top. It can be at first number or second number, but it should be towards upper end. So ketone, aldehyde, acid, such groups will be present towards the upper end. Now asymmetric carbon atom, it is at the intersection of the lines. You can also write here carbon, but it is not preferred majorly. You can also denote it by writing star over here. So star indicates it is asymmetric carbon atom. Now the groups which are present on vertical lines, say this aldehydic group and this alcohol group, they are understood that they are going away from the observer. Whereas groups which are there on the horizontal line, they are depicted as they are facing towards the observer or they are above the plane. So in Fischer projections, which is widely used still for carbohydrates and amino acids, there is something called as DL nomenclature. Now please do not confuse it with small d and small l, or plus sign and minus sign. This we have already seen. That is used to indicate dextrorotatory and levorotatory. So that is related to the optical activity. If there is rotation of plane polarized light towards right hand side, it is small d or plus sign, whereas rotation of the plane polarized light towards left hand side makes it levorotatory, small l or minus sign. But this DL nomenclature has nothing to do with the optical activity. If you want to mention this nomenclature, that is D-glucose, if it is the structure, optical activity you can additionally express, say in brackets, plus D-glucose or minus D-glucose. So that is additional. Nomenclature involves either capital D or small l followed by common name of that compound. So here, taking example of glucose, to decide whether it is D or L, what you need to do is you need to simply observe all the chiral carbon atoms. So in case of glucose, we have this first chiral carbon atom, this is the second, this is third, and this is fourth. So last carbon atom you need to see and see the position of OH group. If OH group is on the right hand side, then it is called as a D. And if OH group on the last chiral carbon atom is on the left hand side, it is called as L. In case of amino acids, we need to look at position of amino group. Now in case of few amino acids, there will be a longer chain of carbons below this also. So generally only amino groups are considered, and if amino group is located on the right hand side, it is a D-alanine in this case. If it is attached on the left hand side, it is called as L. So position of OH in the sugars on the last carbon atom is considered, and position of amino group in amino acids, it is considered. In both cases, if OH as well as this NH2, if it is on the right hand side, make it capital D. Whereas if they are on the left hand side, make it capital L. These are few examples. So this is glyceraldehyde. You can see OH on the right side, so it is a D-glyceraldehyde. This is fructose, OH on the left hand side, so it is L-fructose. Mannose, it is L-mannose. Erythrose, it is on the right hand side, so it is D-erythrose. Coming to few examples of amino acids, serine, you can see here it is L-serine. So threonine, it is L-threonine. Asparagine, this is also N, and glutamine, this is also L-glutamine. There are additional amino groups attached on asparagine and glutamine, but this is not the main amino group, and it is also not attached to the chiral carbon atom. You need to look at the one which is attached to the core carbon atom, which is chiral. These are few additional examples which you can try giving nomenclature on your own, and you can write your answers in the comment section. So Fischer introduced this long back somewhere in 1890s. After that, in mid 90s, there was introduction of R and S configuration, but still D and L nomenclature is preferred over R and S configuration in certain cases. As you can see, it is more of nomenclature. It can be part of the name, common name. Even R and S can be, but see example of glucose. Glucose contains 4 chiral carbon atoms. So if you are assigning R and S configuration, it will become 2R, 3S, 4R, 5R. So it will be a very big name. Instead of that, simply writing letter D, D-glucose, tells you about its configuration. So D and L is more of a nomenclature because writing a single letter is easy than writing configuration of all the chiral carbon atoms. So this is referring, DL nomenclature is referring to the whole molecule, while R and S is applicable to only each and every chiral carbon atom you need to decide. So with the help of DL nomenclature, you can summarize the complete nomenclature by a single letter rather than writing 3 to 4 different letters. Also, it has been observed that all the naturally occurring sugars, they are in the D form, and all the naturally occurring amino acids, they are in the L form. So it is very easy to generalize such statements rather than writing all the naturally occurring carbohydrates, they are having 3R and 1S. So that will be difficult. That is why in case of sugars and amino acids, though this nomenclature is very old, still it is preferred because they contain more number of chiral atoms as well as amino acids. They have some common things in them which can be easily generalized. These are some references for the images which are used in this presentation. Next, we are going to study R and S configuration. Till then, take care. Goodbye.